Hey there, Jordan Sheridan. Live. Hope everybody's having a good day. Coming to you with a little bit different of a story, I would say. A story about economic pain, but also a story about love that's a bit on hold. So let me know in the super chat if you could hear me well, and you guys could see us well. I am here with Rick. Rick is down in Texas, has a really interesting story to tell. And you, before coronavirus, kind of had a lot of the next steps of your life were looking very optimistic, both economically but also personally. And coronavirus has really decimated you financially, spiritually, and also in your personal life. So first tell me, Rick, before the coronavirus happened, what was going on in your life that was giving you, hope?
Well, I had just applied for a K-1 visa a little over a year ago for my fiance from China, and we got the approval, and it looked like we were going to bring her over pretty soon. And unfortunately what happened there is she went to the interview, and I guess the interviewer smelled a rat and decided that he wanted some more documentation. And by the time we got the documentation and they processed it, the process took about a month. And at the time I didn't know it, but that month's delay was going to cause us some problems as the travel restrictions set in. And it was about that same time, around the beginning of the year, that I was looking at my calendar. And I've worked as a magician now for about 25 years. You can type in magician and Frisco police into Google and see some of the things that I've done. But I had a pretty good career going, and I looked at my calendar and I looked at my bank account balance. I said, this is going to be my best year ever. And so I went out and I bought a new car. And then March came, and by that point the travel restrictions had set in. Discovered there was not only no way to bring my fiance over, but we were going to ultimately lose the visa. We originally thought we were going to bring her over, and we invested about $4,800 into a plane ticket. She sold her home, she quit her job and sold her vehicle thinking she was coming to America. And when she got to the airport in Beijing, they turned her away. And she spent the night in the airport. Yeah, this was actually more recently. After the initial travel restrictions started, we got some wrong information that she was going to be allowed to come across. And unfortunately turned out not to be true, because the thing that's restricting her is the executive order that Trump put in January, restricting the Chinese from coming here. And the idea behind that was to slow down the spread of the coronavirus. Unfortunately, though, there's no expiration date on that particular executive order. So even though their numbers now are quite low, especially compared to ours, she's still not allowed to come over. So we got some wrong information about how that worked. And because of that, she wound up at the airport, got turned away, had to spend the night in the airport, ultimately tried another airport and the same thing. And so that was kind of a tough setback. And then in March, I watched my career do a complete 180-degree turnaround. I went from a very successful year that was turning out to be one of my best ever to I probably wiped $15,000 off the books in this period of about a week, and discovered that a lot of that money that was in the bank account was actually my clients' money, where they had prepaid me for shows and I had to refund all of that. So it was a pretty quick turnaround. And ultimately, I wound up having to move in with my parents just to keep from going homeless, which is where I'm at right now. This is actually the room I grew up in 35 years ago. So it's a strange way to come back home, but it's where I'm at for now. So I'm grateful to have a roof over my head.
So let's start. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 53.
So you and your fiance met online, I take it, a couple years ago?
Right. That's correct.
Okay. And uh, before coronavirus hit, she was trying to get the K-1 visa, and there was some confusion, this and that. So you thought she was going to be coming over, but there was a delay of like, I guess, a couple weeks.
Well, what happened is after we met in, it was actually March of 2018, we met here. She had at the time she had a tourist visa, and she came over. We met in this country, decided we wanted to apply for the K-1 visa. We did get the K-1 visa, but there was a delay when she went in for the interview. And so by the time we got the actual visa, travel restrictions were already in place. And then we waited a few months, and then last month we got some wrong information that made us think those travel restrictions had been lifted. And at that point, based on the wrong information, she sold her home and her vehicle and quit her job and attempted to come over. But even though we had a good visa, she wasn't able to come over due to the travel restrictions. And now, since so much time has passed, the visa has actually expired.
Mm-hmm. So you have to redo the process, and who the hell knows? Even the normal process has a lot of issues, or could be fickle. But you don't even know when this travel ban's gonna expire. Obviously, Trump has made it a bit of a political issue that, looking for praise that he put that travel ban in, has not signaled when it will lift, even though the numbers in China have been better. And before the interview, you were telling me that the area your fiance lives, actually, that area of China was not hit particularly hard.
Right. As far as I know, they didn't actually have any cases in her particular province, but even still, the numbers are down. And I totally understand why the initial travel restriction was put in place to start with. And, I'll be the first to say that I understand why people in America are unhappy with the idiots in China that brought this all about, whether it was some stupid person at the wet market or some employee not following protocol at the virology lab. We know where it started. There may be some debate as to why, but we know where it started. And I understand the anger that we here in America have towards those people, because I'm in that same group as far as like to punch the idiot that started this, because it's just ruined my life. I've never had COVID-19, but it has devastated my life in so many ways. So I understand the anger and the unhappiness with those people, but at the same time, it's not the whole Chinese people that were behind it. And it'd be nice if Trump could have a little compassion and just, open that door for a little while to allow people like me and my fiance to be together.
Mm-hmm. And you were saying, being a magician, obviously it's not an office job, requires people, coming together for parties, those kind of things. And it's not the kind of thing you typically have much of a backup for. So you were saying this was looking like it was going to be your best year, to the point where you were completely wiped out because you couldn't do anything for months. Can you kind of talk about economically, as you're dealing with basically your future marriage put on hold, and that is obviously depressing. Were all your events wiped out? And talk about, where were you living, and was your landlord at all willing to work with you? How did it end up where you just got completely financially wiped out within a few weeks?
So in March, I got an email. The second week in March, I got an email from a client indicating they were going to cancel their show that they had scheduled with me, and they asked for a refund. And so I took the money out of my account and issued them a refund. And later that day, there was another email, and then another. And then that week, every time I would open the inbox on my email, there were just way too many emails, and they all had the word cancel in the subject line. And so it was actually, for me, it was a reversal, because what I hadn't realized at the time when I was looking at my nice little bank account balance was a lot of that was money that belonged to my clients. I've never missed a show in 25 years, so I wasn't worried about missing a show and having to give them a refund. I never thought there would be an environment where what I do would be essentially illegal. And that's what happened when they started clamping down in March. And so, like I said, a lot of the money had to be refunded. My income completely stopped. And because of the refunds, I wound up doing a reversal. And I know a lot of business owners are in the same position that, maybe they had to refund money to clients, or they're still having to pay employees or overhead or rent on their facilities. And so for a lot of business owners, it's even harder for them than for me. But it was a pretty quick reversal. And I was renting a house at the time. The landlord was not in a position where he could really work with me. And even if he could, even if he cut the rent in half, I'm not sure that I could have comfortably made a go of it. So to be on the safe side, I did move in with my parents, and just felt like that was the better strategy for the long term.
Were you able to get the ticket refunded that you had spent for your fiance to come over here?
We did get a partial refund. There was more than one ticket involved, and we did get a partial refund, thankfully.
Okay. And how does it work in terms of you being a magician? Were you able to look into the, I don't know if that's considered a small business, if you could get regular unemployment? Did you look into any of those avenues?
So, yeah, I've been fortunate, even though I've had some setbacks as far as my career. I've been real fortunate that God's taken care of my finances. And one of the things I was able to do was finally get into the TWC system here that provides the money from the CARES Act through their unemployment system. And so that $600 a week. Now, for reasons I don't understand, they cut me off for a month that I guess I didn't qualify for. There's some kind of bookkeeping error, and of course the 800 number is overwhelmed, so you can't really call them to ask. But it did start at some point, and I've been able to get some assistance from that, so that's helped a lot.
And being at your parents', I mean, for some people watching, that might not sound terrible. I mean, obviously, at 53, might not be where you want to be, but it's also been a little difficult considering you're kind of stuck. You can't really go out much.
Yeah, I'm definitely under house arrest. My parents made it pretty clear that if I was going to stay here, I needed to stay here, and that's because of the COVID issue. And on the one hand, I understand they are elderly. They have a lot of pre-existing conditions that make them very high risk, and so I understand, and nobody wants their parents getting sick. But on the other hand, it's been tough for me because I'm a very social person, and I'm basically under house arrest. I can't go anywhere. Now, it's a nice prison, I got to tell you, but it's nothing like the freedom that I had a few months ago, because I can't really go anywhere. I can't see any of my friends here, and so that part's been really difficult. It's been a very lonely time. So in addition to the other setbacks that I've had, it's been a pretty lonely time.
And one viewer asked, can you do any online magic shows? But I assume it's kind of tough, since you need, a lot of times magic shows, you need somebody there to pull a card, or,
Right. Yeah. To address their question, my guess is that I have the type of show that doesn't translate very well to a camera. And part of it is, too, I don't really have the equipment that would be necessary to do a good video magic show. But I did attempt 3, I guess you'd call it a virtual magic show, over the camera like this kind of thing. And in all 3 cases, the client asked for a refund, and I agreed with them and issued them a refund. So in my particular case, because of the type of show I do, it doesn't translate well to video. It'd be like me trying to give you a haircut over the phone here. It just doesn't work so well, unfortunately. My show has always had a lot of audience involvement. I usually play off the people in the audience, and that doesn't work through a little camera like this.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because on one end you have people that economically are hanging off a cliff, but in your case, I mean, you have the safety net, which is your parents, but instead of hanging out on a cliff, seems like you're just kind of your life's kind of, you're stuck on the cliff because you can't move forward in your relationship. Obviously, it would be a little easier if your fiance was here. And you don't know, I mean, Texas, where you are, is one of the 3 really bad hotspots right now. So you really don't know when this will change um, to the point where you could start getting back out there and having a living. I assume, other than magic, you don't have much of an economic backup plan.
Right, that's correct. And in my case, it's unfortunately probably going to not change until there's a vaccine that's widely distributed. And even then, it's going to take a while for people to feel comfortable having the type of events that I used to do, and it's no telling what the economic recovery will look like as far as how long that takes before people will start hiring entertainment again.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, unemployment as of right now is up at the end of next month. A lot of people haven't even been able to get unemployment. So at least now at your parents, you could save up a little bit that when the coast is clear, you could at least get maybe first month's rent taken care of. But past next month, if there's not an extension, you're kind of even further stuck.
Right. Yeah, it's a little scary, but it's probably the least of my worries. The grinding loneliness has been the hardest part by far.
Mm-hmm. And kind of talk about that. Are you able to? I know you can't see your friends, but what's the day like? A lot of Netflix, board games with your parents. I mean, what are you doing to keep busy?
A lot of sleep. It's the only way I've figured out how to cope.
Mm-hmm.
I sleep a lot.
So definitely depressed for sure.
Yeah. Sleeping kind of shuts out the world for a little while. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. And what's the communication like with your fiance? Do you guys get to talk a good amount?
We do some. We're on completely different schedules as far as AM and PM are switched between us and China, so it makes it a little more difficult. And Skype in China is not a service that works very well, so there's a lot of dropped calls and a lot of frustration. But we do stay in touch. We do communicate. It's not the same as having somebody next to you that you could hug. I mean, for that matter, I do talk some on the phone with some of my friends, but it's not the same as going out and doing something with them.
Mm-hmm. Right. Especially as the weather's getting a little nicer, it just makes the day feel a lot longer if it's
right.
Nice and sunny out, that kind of thing. And last question is, is there, for people like you, what would be the most beneficial? Kind of some type of support network for people that are kind of stuck at home, can't do their job. Maybe some type of fund to help people stay in their homes. What would be the most immediate relief? I assume your fiance, but if you could get some short-term relief, what would that be?
So, of course, in my case, my highest hope is that Trump will open the door to China just for a little while to allow my fiance to come over. But in terms of economics, if they decide to continue the benefit program with the unemployment, that's been very helpful to me, because ordinarily gig workers such as myself aren't entitled to anything because we don't pay into unemployment insurance. So to get anything from it was a real blessing. So that's been a huge help that I'm very grateful for. Mazda Capital that financed my MX-5 has been really good about working with me on the repayment program. So I got several months there with them that they've been very good about helping me with that, where I've been able to defer car payments. So that's been real nice. Mm. So things like that have been very helpful.
And what does it say to you that America, compared to Europe, other countries in Asia, has bumbled this so badly to the point where you have all of these hotspots now? It kind of just transferred from New York, New Jersey, other parts of the East Coast to the Southeast, the South, the West. And as it's kind of become a culture war. Something as basic to wear a mask, which isn't really that controversial to most objective, sane people. what do you think in terms of the politics here? How badly the so-called greatest country on earth has bumbled this compared to others?
Yeah, there's no doubt that we really dropped the ball on this one several times in several ways. I don't know, to try to be fair to the people in power that maybe we're trying to mitigate this. I think part of it was that we didn't realize what a mess it was going to be. We've had SARS and other things blow through, the original SARS. This is, of course, another SARS, but we've had those blow through, and they weren't that big of a deal. They were kind of a blip on the radar. And personally, I don't think this is quite as bad as what the media is making it out to be, but at the same time, there's no doubt it's real. It's not a hoax. People are dying from it. And, even if it kills only as many people as the flu, that's additional deaths over and above what the flu took. So it's something that we need to be aware of and need to be cautious with. But at the same time, I think most of the mainstream media takes a different approach from what you do. You get viewers by doing investigations and revealing facts that we wouldn't normally know about, whereas most of the media does things by fear. And I get that. If Channel 5 says this common household item may extend your life, and then Channel 8 says this common household item may kill you instantly, well, you're going to watch Channel 8. So I get that. I understand the fear behind it and why they slant stories in that way. But I think in some respects, maybe they've made it seem a little worse than what it really is. But regardless, they definitely have dropped the ball. And part of the problem is, unlike China, we're a country where it would be extremely difficult to do what needs to be done to really get a handle on this, and that would be locking people down. And because we're a free country and we're not used to being controlled by our government, it would be very difficult to do in this country. In China, it was kind of business as usual. And when they did the lockdown, my fiance showed me the pictures of the trees that were cut down in front of her house to prevent them from going to the store or from getting groceries. I've seen the videos where some of the apartment dwellers in that area had their doors welded shut and a bar welded in place, and they were just stuck, can't go out and do anything, or if the place caught on fire, they would just die. And that would never work in this country, I guess, for no other reason than the fact that half of us have guns up in our cabinet, and we'd be pulling them out when the police came to weld our door shut. So it's difficult in this country to do that kind of a lockdown, which really would have probably been much more effective. But at the same time, these little half measures and bumbled testing and everything else has just been a mess, and now we're really paying the price for it, unfortunately.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm sorry to hear about your story. It's I could tell from your voice, it's taken a lot out of you physically and mentally. Unfortunately, we always have to say other people have it worse, but that doesn't help when you're in your own situation. So we'll definitely keep in touch, and I hope, sooner than later you could get out of the house, because obviously socializing with people would help. Thank you for telling us the story, and we'll keep in touch.
All right. Thanks, Jordan.
Thanks. That was Rick down in Texas. And I wanted to show that story because it's a little bit different. Obviously, people are hurting economically, but there's also people hurting socially. Their personal lives put on hold. I know people that have had to cancel their weddings, but in Rick's case, having to, basically put on pause your relationship where you can't see each other. So it's really tough. Fortunately, he's been able to get some unemployment, but that's obviously ending. And if you have elderly parents as your backstop to stay there, definitely understandable why they would be worried about, him going out and about, because obviously that would make it easier if he could see his friends that are still in the area and all that. So, we definitely welcome your stories. If you have a coronavirus story, whether it's economic, social, kind of a mix of both, definitely email us at info@statusquo.com. That's info@statusquo.com, so we could tell your story. Thank you for the super chat, Seth Peterson. Appreciate it. I didn't want to be hawking for super chats and stuff during such a sad story. Another sad story, Amy McGrath is taking, it looks like her victory lap. If you look at, most of the networks have declared her the victor over Charles Booker, who I interviewed yesterday. She says, I'm humbled that Kentucky Democrats have nominated me to take on Mitch McConnell. You know, really, Chuck Schumer and the Senate Democrats nominated her, then flooded the race with cash so that she was on TV 24/7 for the last few months. And I can't wait to get started to send him into retirement. Thank you to this team. Without you, we wouldn't be getting ready to give Mitch the fight of his political life. Yeah, we'll see about that fight for political life, since right now she starts down by 20 points. Thank you to every candidate who stepped up to run in this race. Like so many, I am inspired by the powerful movement Charles Booker built to fight systemic racism and injustice and rightfully demand long overdue action and accountability from our government and institutions, blah, 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 blah. So she's had no policy from the beginning. There has been some controversy because it does look like at least 6,000 ballots were thrown out in one county that was favorable to Charles Booker. As far as I could tell, Booker, let me see if that's changed. I don't think he's tweeted out anything yet on the election results. No, he hasn't. So possible, I guess, that he could contest in some way. The results, let me give you the final results. Kentucky Senate, Democrat. New York Times. So they're saying that Amy McGrath, now with all the absentee ballots in, or most of the absentee ballots in, winning by close to 3 percentage points. So if Charles Booker sees reason that enough votes might have been tossed that could have closed that margin, maybe he'll contest it. My guess is he's not going to, because I think he's got a bright political future and could potentially run in 2022 against Rand Paul, who's sounding more and more like an idiot every day. If you see what Rand Paul was saying in a hearing today with Dr. Anthony Fauci and other medical experts. But it's definitely a blow to the gut. If you followed this race, Booker got in relatively late. Amy McGrath got in a lot earlier. Not that the Senate Democrats would have backed Booker at all. The Senate Democrats, the Senate super PACs, a lot of the donors that are funding Biden, flooded money there. Part of that, as Chuck Schumer basically openly said, was so some of that money could be used for other races. So, which shows you that a lot of this, you think you're sending money for a specific race, it's also a money funneling scheme so that Senate Democrats could use the money that you're sending in for the Kentucky race in other races. Because I don't really know many people that are overwhelmed with passion and excitement for Amy McGrath. Yes, she was a Marine, but other than that, she doesn't stand for anything. She's already down by, let me get it, I think I saw 20 points to McConnell. I don't think she has any real chance to beat McConnell. I don't think Chuck Schumer thinks she has any real chance to beat McConnell. If Charles Booker would have been in the race longer, I think he would have won fairly easy. I think, let me see. I think also it shows you Charles Booker won pretty convincingly on Election Day. He defeated her. It was the absentee ballots and early mail-in ballots that went to Amy McGrath. A lot of those mail-in ballots started and came in before Booker got this momentum, a little earlier in the process, before, maybe in the early part of the Black Lives Matter movement exploding in the last few weeks. So yes, it's good that there was more mail-in ballots during COVID. And also, let's just face facts. Area of 600,000 was relegated to one polling place in Booker's strongholds. That's in Louisville. Was shrunk from 600,000. For 600,000 people, they had one polling place. So don't tell me voter suppression has nothing to do with this. They said it was because of Corona, But I actually got an email earlier from somebody in Kentucky saying I live in a rural area, which had with far less. Let me get the email actually. Somebody from Kentucky told me I live in a rural area with far less people than. Yeah, I live in Madison County, which has a smaller population than Jefferson County, but there were 3 polling places open in Madison County compared to 1 in Jefferson County. Madison is more rural than Jefferson County, but how is that fair for the people living in Jefferson County? So you're seeing more rural areas getting more polling places than a huge area and some Booker strongholds. So obviously that's by design. That is definitely by design. So we'll see what Booker does. He could potentially sue and do some lawsuits. He could. It's not close enough for a recount right now. So we'll see what happens. But it definitely shows you money still makes a difference. If Amy McGrath didn't have tens of millions of dollars from Chuck Schumer and the Senate Democrats, this would not be the result. Secondly, let's face it, when the Senate Democrats, Schumer, everybody is going behind one neoliberal candidate from the beginning, you're not going to get as much media attention because the media, especially MSNBC, CNN, are the guardrails for the establishment. So even as Booker was getting more play on social media, on digital media, Bernie Sanders endorsed him, AOC endorsed him, Elizabeth Warren endorsed him, you were seeing a little more coverage of Booker, but not a ton more coverage of Booker nationally. And from what I was told, it was very similar in Kentucky. So, I mean, it is what it is. She's probably going to lose to Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell is breathing a sigh of relief. It wasn't a slam dunk that Booker would have beat McConnell, but I think it would have been a much stronger contrast with Booker than Amy McGrath. Amy McGrath essentially is Joe Biden with different gender. Let's build on the Affordable Care Act. Mitch McConnell is, awful, but she's not proposing bold solutions. She's not proposing anything that's going to change or offer significant change for impoverished parts of Kentucky. So you're probably going to get the same result we've gotten in Kentucky and elsewhere for a long time. And no, even if Joe Biden wins in a landslide, that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to show up on down ballot for a Senate race. And Mitch McConnell, we know, is going to have a hell of a lot of money. And Mitch McConnell, in election years, tends to give, grants and get money for certain parts of Kentucky that he has to win. He just did it with a municipal airport in a region of Kentucky that didn't have one. So, yeah, it's a tough loss. I know a lot of people are going to say, Jordan, it's not real. He didn't win. She didn't win. All I can tell you is absentee ballots were largely absent the last few days. And as they came in, largely from more rural areas, it looks like McGrath was victorious there. So that's it for today because I got to go pick up a car on Long Island. I don't know. No, I will not be live tomorrow, but we are still planning our road trip. So definitely keep sending in those stories if you have one. We're going to keep it restricted to just a few states that don't have huge increases in coronavirus cases. But if you live, let's say, in Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, definitely send in your stories, info@statuscoup.com. We're only interviewing people who are wearing masks and outside. We don't want to be inside interviewing people, and you have to be wearing a mask. So I won't be live tomorrow. Maybe we'll have some stuff from Jen. Thank you for watching this live stream. Keep it coming to the GoFundMe. I thank you. Seth Peterson just left $15. So we are now, $519 away from $111,000. These reporting trips cost money. I don't see a lot of other outlets going out there and telling the story of actual people struggling with unemployment, not getting the $1,200 check, having their hours cut. We're hearing stories all over the place. And like we've been saying for significant amount of time, people are hurting. And I think we're on the verge of a Great Depression if we don't get an extension of unemployment, some form of UBI. So hopefully we'll be able to show you those stories. Thanks for watching. I will see you not tomorrow, Thursday.